Welcome back, everyone. It's Eric from Rare Candy here. Today we have the top 4 match of the League Cup that I got to go attend at Cape Fear Games in Wilmington, North Carolina. So if you guys did miss it, we did have a top 8 match get uploaded already. We'll have a link down below in the description. But here, like I said, we have our top 4 match. Over on the left, we have Carl Satavi. He's going to be playing the Vileplume, like, stall type of deck. And then over on the right, we have James Doster, who's going to be playing ReshiZard. Also want to give a quick shout out to James. He is one of our Patreon GX members over at patreon.com/rarecandytcg. Very grateful for him and the support that the rest of our patrons give over there. But this is kind of an interesting little matchup we have here. You know, ReshiZard's definitely like the big deck in the format to beat. And this Vileplume deck, once it gets going, actually can, I think, pretty convincingly beat Charizard, but the problem is just getting to that point. It has a very clunky setup, and the Vileplume, if you guys aren't too familiar with it, it's all the way back in Burning Shadows, and has this ability that says if it's your active, basic Pokemon can't attack, which is pretty big. So that means even Charizard's GX attack cannot get through this Vileplume. So, but like I said, it is a very, very clunky setup that this deck requires. And actually, we just saw a Team Skullgrunt and a pass. So James actually could potentially capitalize on this if he is able to find himself a welder to get some energy onto this Charizard. And if he can use Double Blaze GX, he can actually just win this turn, which would be crazy. So James definitely needs to do what he can here to try to steal a win if possible. So here we are going to see a Nest Ball. Let's see what he's going to be opting to play down here. Let's see, I saw Jirachi in his deck, I saw Mew, see the Baby Volcanion. Alrighty. So he also does have an Ultra Ball. Let's see what he's going to go and grab off of that. So I'm not sure, I mean, if he is playing Jirachi, he probably is playing like Tapu Lele and Dedenne GX and stuff like that as well. So if he does have access to Tapu Lele, I think I would just go in for the Welder here. And, well, oh, the issue is he doesn't have... I take that back. He doesn't have the energy in hand to be able to do that, I don't believe. So if he does have the Dedenne GX, we could even see that come down. But here it looks like he is going to go for a Jirachi. Okay. So he just has a single card in hand. I didn't get a good look at what that might be, but here he's just going to retreat into Jirachi, use that Stellar Wish ability. And we see a Kiawe there, so if that's the case, we might just see a Kiawe and just, okay, but we are going to see a switch. So curious to see what route James is going to be going here. Oh, and he already has a Kiawe in hand. Okay, so that definitely seems good. So if can Kiawe, that's that supporter all the way back from Burning Shadows, let you search your deck for 4 fire energy and attach them to one of your Pokemon. And it does end your turn, unfortunately. Otherwise, James would be able to just get a knockout. So Carl really needs a good top deck here. And unfortunately, that is not one. So unfortunately, we might just see a scoop here. And looks like that is what's happening because, yeah, unfortunately, Carl had no way to avoid the knockout from the Charizard next turn. Didn't have any other additional Pokemon. So, like I said, this Vileplume deck kind of does have a clunky time setting up once in a while. So if James can kind of catch Carl on those turns when he's having a hard time getting set up, he actually can maybe win this series here. You know, James also, of course, plays the Let Loose Marshadows in his deck, so he can attempt to disrupt Carl further that way as well. That's really going to be, I think, James's big plan here, is whenever Carl goes for a Beacon or like a Steven's Resolve, you hit him with the Marshadow and just try to, you know, prevent them from drawing what they need to get a Vileplume into play. And another mulligan yet again from Carl. He had a pretty good hand otherwise. We saw the Professor Elm's Lecture in there. We saw Steven's Resolve, Rare Candy. So he probably would have been in good shape if he just had a basic in that hand. So the big card he really doesn't want to start here is Buzzwole Pheromosa GX. I know he does play one of those in his list. And geez, he has another mulligan. So that is, you know, I'm sure a little bit annoying for him, but let's see what he can finally find here. Because I think his deck plays, if I remember correctly, I think his deck plays around like 8 Pokemon, 8 basics, if I remember correctly. So let's see if we can finally find one. And we do see, I think that was an Oddish that he had there. We'll have to see once he reveals his basic. Okay, here James is going to take his mulligan cards, of course, though. And yes, that is going to be an Oddish, and James was able to start his Jirachi, definitely going to be the best starter in his deck as well. Here we're going to see a Pokegear from Carl. And he does find that Professor Elm's Lecture, that's going to be the big card he's really going to be looking for here. So of course it's going to be the supporter, allows him to search his deck and get 3 Pokemon with 60 HP or lower, put them into his hand. So probably going to see a couple of Oddish and a Alolan Vulpix if I just had to guess here. So it looks like he's eyeing himself down 2 Vulpix and an Oddish. That way he has 2 of each in play. Doesn't seem too bad. I might even consider going for maybe just 2 Oddish and 1 Vulpix. But I guess at the same time, I don't mind this too much as long as he plans on retreating the Oddish at the least. I guess that's a little bit better, because otherwise I think I would have rather just seen two more Oddish. But here we are going to see a retreat, and he is going to try to save these Oddish, definitely like that. And just a pass. And let's see what James is going to do. So he does have a Nest Ball, so no doubt he can find himself a Reshiram Charizard. So in a different matchup, this might have been a case where he might want to go for Volcanion, but since he's trying to, apply all this early game pressure, he needs to just get ReshiZard up and running as soon as possible here. So let's see, what else does he have? I think I saw a Kiawe in his hand. If he has Welder, I think that definitely would be a little bit better. So we are going to see an attachment, and we are going to see a Welder as well. So definitely a really, really strong start so far. And we're going to see a Skateboard come down. And here James does need to draw those 3 cards off of his Welder too. So I think at this point we just see probably a Stellar Wish and a Retreat and a Double Blaze GX if I just had to assume. And here we're going to see a Marshadow come down. I actually am not a huge fan of the Marshadow on this turn. I think I'd really prefer to see the Marshadow whenever Carl goes for either a Steven's Resolve or a Beacon. Because you want to play the Marshadow and disrupt your opponent after they've searched out those ideal cards that they need to get set up. But nevertheless, the Marshadow is still going to put Carl at a much lower hand size, so that's still going to be good. And we see Nest Ball in hand. Looks like he's going to Stellar Wish first here. Let's see what he can get off of this. So see a Choice Band, see Fiery Flint. Choice Band might not be too good in this matchup, so he could just go for Fiery Flint potentially and just try to thin some energy out of deck. Doesn't seem too bad to me. So, James really doesn't need too much else at this point. He has a pretty good little setup so far, and luckily this Vileplume deck doesn't really put on much pressure of its own, so James could opt to sit on this hand, or he could try to play some cards. I think either way is fine in this particular situation. And here we're just going to see probably a Double Blaze GX. Okay. And, oh man, so James kind of let loose Carl into like the perfect set of 4 cards here. So he's going to Rare Candy into Vileplume and then end his turn with a Steven's Resolve. That is definitely very unfortunate. And I'm actually not sure if James runs a way to deal with the Vileplume. I will quickly point out that this whole entire tournament was recorded at the very beginning of the Unbroken Bonds format, so that means even before Santa Clara Regionals and Madison Regionals. And so a lot of players weren't playing Stealthy Hood yet in their list at this point to deal with these Vileplume style decks. So more than likely James is not running the Stealthy Hood in this deck, since at this time, like I said, it really hadn't become a popular tech. So here he is going to get a Skateboard down on this Marshadow. And I'm just trying to think what he's going to do at this point. I really don't see a way for him to win now. Unless he does have an additional card in his deck that I'm unaware of. If he plays Arcanine or if he plays the Stealthy Hood, that would allow him to deal with this Vileplume. But yeah, unfortunately there's not 5 prizes on the field right now. And I just don't see a way for him to win. But also, one thing that's important to note about this, he could still be playing it out, even realizing that he might not win this particular game, because if he does lose a very long game 2 and they go to a game 3, if James is ahead when time is called, he would actually win the entire series, and this Vileplume deck is not going to put on early pressure. So if I'm actually in James's position, I might even consider just playing out this entire game, even if it takes a long time, even if he knows he might inevitably lose it, just because if it goes to time, his deck is definitely favored to come out ahead and win the whole series in time. So that's really, if I'm in James's position, that's what I'm kind of thinking of right now. So here, just another pass back to James. And we might just see a pass. You know, another thing he could attempt to do potentially is to try to deck Carl out. I'm not sure Carl's list in here. If he plays in a Ranguru, that would actually give James some trouble, but he could potentially go for like a deck out strategy. So here we're just going to see another Stevens Resolve, it looks like, from Carl, and that's going to pass the turn back over to James. So if you guys aren't familiar with Stevens Resolve, it's a supporter card kind of similar to Caolan. It ends your turn after you play it, but with this one you get search your deck for any 3 cards. So very good at setting up these Vileplumes. So here we're going to see a switch back into Jirachi. And we're going to see a Stellar Wish as well. So let's see what he's going to get here. Could grab the Welder. I'm not sure if he has a supporter in hand, so he could go for that. Here's just going to opt to fail it. So I guess if I'm in James's shoes, like I said, I'm playing to lose a long game 2. It's not often you attempt to lose a game 2, but that's kind of my game plan. I would be trying to lose a very long game 2 here, and you know, try to go for a deck out strategy until then. So here we're going to see another Vileplume come online, and Carl's going to start to finally get some energy in play. So this deck does play some ways of dealing damage. You know, Vileplume's not the best attacker. I think it's like 3 energy to do 60, and then like a status condition on a coin flip. I forget the exact attack. But he will be able to eventually get this thing up and running and start attacking as well. So here we're going to see another Stevens Resolve setting up his hand yet again. So let's see what James is going to do on this next turn here. Yeah, I'm really just not sure if he has any outs in his deck. You know, if he does play Stealthy Hood, we definitely have a game on our hands then. But if he doesn't, then like I said, he's probably not in a good spot for this one. We're going to see Counter Energy come down and a Lusamine. Going for Lusamine and Stevens here. And we are going to see Vileplume attack. And it looks like the Jirachi is going to be paralyzed. So 60 in paralysis here. And here it looks like James is just going to scoop up and opt to go on to a game 3. So yeah, his deck definitely had no way at dealing with Vileplume in this game. But I think nevertheless, I still would have liked to have seen him play it out. He might be a little bit you know, forgetful of how some of the rules in Top Cut work, but I think that was his kind of win condition. But nevertheless, he's going to get to go first, and he definitely can still pull off the old let loose and pray strategy. He does have the 2 Mars Shadows, so I'm thinking turn 1, you just try to set your Charizard, then whenever Carl inevitably beacons on his next turn, you go for your first Mars Shadow. Or Beacon or Stevens Resolve, whichever one. So as long as he can cripple Carl set up and just put on a lot of early pressure and overwhelm him, he actually still has a win condition, and no doubt Carl is going to be, you know, crossing his fingers, just hoping that he doesn't get let loose into oblivion, basically. So here it looks like game 3 is about to get underway. And so it looks like James is starting with that Eevee Snorlax GX. And so we're going to see a draw for turn. And he does open with Kiawe as well, so we definitely could see Kiawe come down on this EV Snorlax. Here we're going to see a Nest Ball. Might opt to just go for a Jirachi. You know, if he has the Kiawe, I'm thinking maybe... Okay, but here he's going to go for the Volcanion. I think I would have preferred Jirachi, just because if it does get Guzma or Counter Catcher, you don't mind it being in the active spot. And then from there, you just Kiawe onto this Snorlax here. Okay, but I see what he's going for. He wanted to get an attachment somewhere else. That's fine. So we're just going to see James end his turn from here. Let's see how Carl is going to be able to respond. So we see a Nest Ball in his hand. We see... I think it was a Gladion in his hand as well. So no doubt he's going to be looking for an Oddish. And if he can find himself another Oddish, that would actually be ideal here. So here he's just taking a peek, seeing what all he has access to in his deck. I'm not sure if he had a different supporter in hand, but depending on what his hand looked like, he might even consider going for a Gladion. I think he really just wants to get down another Oddish this turn. That's going to be the big thing. But at the same time, if he goes for the Gladion, he can't use Steven's Resolve, which would be kind of annoying as well. But at the same time, I think he honestly doesn't even need to, because he can Beacon for the Vileplume. And ooh, he had two Oddish in there, so no doubt he's probably going to want to get one of those out. That definitely seems pretty good. So Gladion, of course, allows you to get a card out of your prizes and has you shuffle Gladion back into your prizes. So this is definitely a pretty good turn for him, and here we're just going to see a Beacon. So this is definitely the turn where James is going to be looking for that Marshadow. That's going to be what he needs here, 100%. And so can he find it? He needs an Ultra Ball. I'm not sure if he had one last turn in his hand or not. So here looks like he's going to grab an Alolan Ninetales and a Vileplume. Both cards that would be extremely annoying for James's deck to deal with. Or I'm sorry, it was Alolan Vulpix. My mistake, it looks like. And I think his hand is just like Fiery Flint, like Choice Band, and Energy. So maybe if I was in James's shoes, maybe I would have Fiery Flinted on the previous turn, but not having the access to the Let Loose here is just, it's just such a heartbreaker for him. Because that was definitely the way he was going to win this. And here you can see he even drew into it. And you know, he is going to go ahead, which is nice, but unfortunately this Vileplume is going to come online, and I think that's going to be game over on turn 2 of, you know, Carl's turn of the game here. So at this point, really just not sure what he can really do at this point. Again, I'm unsure if he plays the Stealthy Hood. I don't believe he does, just because last game we probably would have seen him go for it at some point, or at least wait out the game a little bit longer to find it if that was the case. So here we're just going to see a Steven's Resolve. And we can see a Guzma, but... And he can get another prize, but at the same time, eventually he's going to have to confront this Vileplume. The Vileplume is just going to be sitting in the active spot with no way to damage it. And it, you know, he has the Let Loose, but he's just a turn too late with it, which is definitely unfortunate. So he's going to shuffle up again and just... He's going to attempt to play this one out. His only win condition at this point is going to be via deck out, I believe. And I'm not sure if Carl does play a Resource Management Oranguru in his deck, or like a Shuffle Draw supporter or something like that. But if he does play some sort of Shuffle Draw supporter, he can always just keep Lucamining supporters back into his deck and then shuffle them back in with a Shuffle Draw supporter. So here we are going to see an attachment and just a Steven's Resolve. So as I'm kind of looking through his deck, okay, we do see a Cynthia, so I actually do think Carl can probably prevent the deck out if he does want to go that route. So unfortunately, I don't see a great out for James at this point. you know, this is the type of thing where had he played out, okay, but here he is just going to give him the scoop. He kind of saw the writing on the wall, unfortunately. And, you know, this awkward, you know, stall Vileplume deck is going to advance all the way onto the finals. So definitely stay tuned. We'll have a link down below in the description whenever the finals match does go live. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video. As always, if you can, feel free to like and subscribe. And if you can, consider supporting this channel by becoming a patron over at patreon.com or by picking up some merch from our online store, rarecandytcg.com. It would mean a lot. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.